Oklahoma State. We love having Robert Allen, Sideline Reporter, has his own show, of course, as well. And Robert Allen joins us on 365 Sports. Well, Craig mentioned this week, Robert. Saturday, when they play, will be exactly 365 days from when they played in Stillwater. And, of course, we've seen two really good football games and might see a third.
No, I think we will. I didn't realize it was 365. I knew it was pretty close. That's your motto? Do y'all have a special? Is there a special ticket promotion or special subscription promotion?
Well,
for Sick'em 3, you should.
Yeah, we're trying to get seats sold in the berm. I think there's some kind of promotion that we're doing on the website for 365.
Okay. All right. Well, no, I think it's a flip a coin game. I think obviously Vegas thinks that too with the point spread they put on it. So, I think this will be a heck of a competitive game. The thing that the two teams are coming into it very differently. Baylor's been tested, went out to Provo and got beaten double overtime and played really well last week in Ames. That's a tough place to go win. I think, in fact, it was Oklahoma State that the Malcolm Rodriguez pick six game in 19 was the last time Iowa State had lost at home until Baylor took it to them last Saturday. And Oklahoma State, it's been kind of a country club life. I mean, I thought Central Michigan was pretty good, and I think that's kind of been proven that they're pretty good. Arizona State was came in here kind of a dumpster fire, and it only got worse. And then Pine Bluff is what it is. So this team hadn't proven much yet. They'll get the chance to do that Saturday in Waco.
Does that worry you a little bit, Robert?
It would if it were, and there are some young players, but not that many. I mean, even in the secondary and the linebacker, where they've had a pretty good makeover from last year's defense. Mason Cobb is a junior. Xavier Benson started a year at Texas Tech and was the player of the year and was an All-American in JUCO last year on defense. In the secondary, Jason Taylor was a starter last year, and Thomas Harper has been a part-time starter, and Sean Michael Flanagan's a fifth-year senior starting for the first year. And then the two corners, Jabbar Muhammad and Corey Black, have played a lot. In fact, they kind of were the guys against Notre Dame in the Fiesta Bowl. They had the second half, and some of those guys who were older sat. Coaching staff felt they were the two best corners at that point. So, if it were a younger team, Smokey, I would panic. It's not a young, and even on offense, it's not a bunch of young pups. They've been through this. They just haven't been through it yet this season.
Robert, there was one of the Baylor players in the media session yesterday was talking about how their goal is to not give up 100 yards rushing, and so far through 4 games they have not given up 100 yards rushing. I know Spencer Sanders is the engine in the offense, and he can certainly contribute to that run game. But what have you made of Dominic Richards and Sanders and the full plethora of the Pokes rushing attack?
I feel I came into the season. I think I may have said this when I was either at Big 12 Media Days or even during fall camp. I think you guys had me on, and I said biggest concern for me on this football team is who's going to run the football. I mean, I knew Spencer would run it some, but he's not going to be you don't want him to lead you in rushing. You want him to be the second or third leading rusher and augment the rushing attack. Dominic Richardson was the guy, and he showed me in the Arizona State game. He rushed for well over 100 yards. At halftime, he came in with an ankle injury, and the trainer told me we're going to evaluate him at halftime and figure it out. And I thought in my mind going to the locker room, if he doesn't come out the second half, I'm still worried. If he comes out the second half and plays well, that'll alleviate it. He did the latter. He came out the second half, played well, and they were running the clock out. So Arizona State knew they were running the football, and Dominic was rushing through them pretty good, even on a bad wheel. So, and he's rested now. He hardly, I don't know if he carried 4 or 5 times against Pine Bluff, and then they have the open week. So he's very, very well rested. And then I'm anxious to see if how much Ollie Gordon will play. He's shown some real glimpses of being a really good back. And gosh, he's a big kid. The Euless Trinity freshman. He's 6'1", 215, 20 pounds, and pretty quick. Catches the ball well. So I'm anxious to see him get some chances. But I go into this thinking Dominic's the man.
Is Spencer Sanders better, and is it because of yet another year of experience or something else?
Spencer Sanders is better because, the longer you do this, the better you should get at it. He's extremely talented, but I'm not going to get defensive. I do sometimes. And, the biggest thing this week among OSU fans, I've had so many people come up and say, well, if Spencer will protect the ball, we'll be good. That's all we need. Just protect the ball. Well, let me tell you something. There's a kid up at K-State named Adrian Martinez that heard that enough that the first 3 games, even though they won several of them for K-State, he protected the ball. Matt Walters, their sideline guy, is one of my best friends. And Matt's like, man, we can't get this guy to throw the ball downfield. He's gun shy. He didn't want to take a chance. And finally, I think Chris Kleiman told him before the game last week with OU, look, if you don't cut it loose and make some plays, we're going to have to go somebody else. We can't have that. Well, Spencer's never had that. Even when the fans say, 4 interceptions, and if you go back and look at the 4 interceptions, 2 of them were tipped. One of them was blatant, but there was a pass rusher right in his face. And the other one was probably the dumb decision. So, 2 of the 4 you can pin on him, and maybe half of the one where he got rushed, give Baylor credit for making a good play. But you got to give the defense credit sometimes. But Spencer doesn't listen to that. He loves the offense the way it is right now. They go fast. He's better. Some guys aren't better when they go fast. He's better when they're going fast. And his teammates have a tremendous amount of confidence in him. And I don't ever want him to get that. I really don't want him to get the yips. I don't want him to feel like, oh, man, I got to be careful. Spencer being careful is the Cowboys getting beat. Spencer playing free and making plays is this offense winning games. That to me is the difference.
Robert, is that the catalyst for them kind of – they're not all the way back to doing what they were doing years ago, spreading it out and wide open, but they've pivoted back to more of some of that stuff in the game. Is that because it's just, let's let Spencer grip it and rip it a little bit?
That he's good at it, and they've got good receivers. Getting Braden Johnson back when they didn't expect him. Everybody thought his career was over because of a medical condition. He got a reprieve, and he's treating this like it's a miracle from God. And he appreciates it, and he's the fastest player on this team. If you line up the 10 fastest guys and run them in 100, number 8's going to win. Probably not by much, but he's going to win. He is a one fast son of a gun. So you got those weapons outside. Bryson Green's good. Jaden Bray has missed the season up till now, but he's practicing again. I think he's good to go. Then you got the Presleys. You got John Paul Richardson. There's just a lot of receiver weapons that if you don't throw it around and get loose with it out there, you're wasting talent on your team. And so, and I think guys, going into this, I try and put my mind, my head in Ron Roberts' head. If I'm him, I'm playing probably a light box and saying, look, we'd rather you, let's see if you can run. Let's see if you can run. Let's see if you can push Ika and Player. And I'm guessing they didn't play them until conference together, but if you don't put both those two dudes inside, you better have your head examined. But no, I think they'll try and say, OSU, you want to run it? Show us you can run, because I think they're gonna play back and say, look, we're not giving OSU's hit home run balls in all 3 games, multiple home run balls. I think Baylor's going to say, no, not today, and I think they'll play back and expect their front and the linebackers, especially Doyle. He's a good physical linebacker against the run. Let them try and take care of that. Let those guys keep OSU from running downfield and see if they can win that way.
Robert, through 3 games, I think the last time we talked to you was right before the season started, and we talked a little bit about just Derek Mason and how he was fitting in. But what have been your impressions of the defense through just these first 3 games?
You know what? He's kind of kept it vanilla, which is understandable against the 3 teams they played. And they got thrown for a loop by Central Michigan. Central Michigan came out looking like the San Francisco 49ers of, Bill Walsh days. They ran a West Coast offense, and their quarterback got it out of his hands. Man, I mean, I don't think he ever held it 2 seconds until the second half. And they had some success with it. Here's the other thing that concerns me. They had a couple of pretty good tight ends, and they had success going just dump balls to the tight end and shallow crosses to the receivers, and took the OSU defensive line out of it. And the guys didn't really get their hands up. Since then, when that's been repeated, the linemen have deflected a number of balls because they've got their hands up so they can at least have some impact. But the linebackers were lost in that Central Michigan game. So that's really been the biggest thing that Mason's had to repair is let guys, here's how we treat a quick game or a West Coast offense. And I kind of expect Baylor's capable of that. Those tight ends, Sills, Dabney, there's some conviction in my part, that Dylan Doyle may be an offensive player as well as he plays when they put him over there. Doesn't drop anything, and he's a hell of a blocker. So yeah, Baylor's capable of doing what so far teams have done and hurt Oklahoma State with. And so that's been the biggest thing for Mason is correcting that, making sure that they can defend that type of attack. And then I think you'll see some of his personality come out now once you get into conference play.
Looking forward to watching Corey Black come home, who's obviously been a heck of a player with Oklahoma State from Conley High School.
The least you guys could have done is have Conley play a home game Friday, so I could have gone to that.
I know.
Instead, they're up in Stringtown. You got to be kidding me.
I know.
Kill me with that. Because I want to see the kid that's committed to OSU, McDonald.
Yeah, July. He's hurt right now.
Hey,
he
against La Vega at the end of the game, and they beat La Vega, which was an upset. 2 schools, 5 minutes from each other. He kind of maybe dinged up his ankle. I think he came back in to help him. And then against the next couple of weeks, I don't know about whether he's playing against Springtown. It's a non-district game, but he's obviously very, very, very good.
He's a stud. Yeah, he's a stud.
Y'all forget I was born in Waco. I know these Waco high schools.
I know, and we love it. But Corey Black, how good has he been? He made some plays in that Big 12 championship game.
No, he's been really good. Like I told you guys, it was he and Jabbar Muhammad that defended the house in the Fiesta Bowl. And, remember, it was the 2 games, different types of offense, but in both the Big 12 championship and the Fiesta Bowl, both games, OSU gave up a lot in the first half. And in the second half, the defense settled down and, for the most part, shut the other offense down. And they did that with Black and Muhammad on the field. So, and not that those other corners weren't good. I mean, I think they were all in NFL camps. But no, Corey Blackson, he's the most athletic of the 2. And Jabbar Muhammad is like a little bulldog you can't get rid of. I mean, he's biting your knees off. So, I love that kind of player. We've had several corners like that during Mike Gundy's days here that half of it's just determination. And he's a DeSoto kid, so he was well coached coming up and tested. But no, I think the corners are good. I think Oklahoma State will be okay. I just want to make sure. I just would like to know how they're going to handle the tight end. I think with Chapin's a smart guy. They'll put a nice little pass scheme together, and they'll test the Oklahoma State linebackers.
Robert, I know that Coach Gundy addressed the end of Bedlam. I'm not going to ask you to rehash that, but Oklahoma State in this whole move to the SEC is the only team who's legit losing their biggest rival. Everyone else, can say that, oh, yeah, we're Texas our biggest rival, but Texas doesn't care about them. Oklahoma State's the only one who's losing theirs. Who would you like to see take that spot? Could it be Baylor if this continues going that way?
Yeah, I got asked that today on my radio show, and I said Baylor. Texas Tech has always said they hate Oklahoma State. I think, they think that Oklahoma State stole their hand sign and
they hate everybody,
their,
Robert.
Yeah, I know they do. Hey, if you lived in Lubbock, you'd hate everybody too.
Yeah.
Oh my God! That's Robert Allen. Robert Allen from.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So, but no, I think the other two would be K-State and Iowa State, because Oklahoma State, Kansas State, and Iowa State are like three peas in a pod. They're the agriculture, engineering schools in their state. They each have had to deal with the University of, probably K-State less than anybody lately, because I think in Kansas in football, K-State's the University of. Although give Kansas credit, they're coming back in a vengeance. But any one of those four, I think, K-State, Iowa State, maybe Tech. But right now, Baylor would be the best option, because these have been the two best teams. And usually if you get to be the two best teams, that kind of automatically becomes the rivalry. So, yeah, I could see that happening. Here's the other thing. I'm going to be real interested in seeing how the four new schools interact. I mean, I could see you guys at BYU, just because you had a jump on this thing and played them twice in a row. I could see that being a rivalry. And it's also two, religious-based schools. Oklahoma State used to have a little deal going with Houston, and boy, there were some knockdown drag-outs. And now that Dana's down there and he coached here, and our fans, half of them are still in love with Dana. So it'll be interesting to see what those four new schools. I can't see UCF or Cincinnati being, your arch rival, but you guys stole you didn't steal our president. You've got a president that went to our school.
That was a pretty good get.
There were some people where it was a very good get. There were some people that thought Linda would eventually be the president here, and that when OSU's deal became open, Linda would just tell Baylor, "Thank you, it's been fun," and she didn't. She said, "No, I'm a Baylor Bear," and we ended up with Dr. Casey Strum, and right now no one's paid her back, especially the head football coach.
Yeah, yeah. You've talked about that president, board, AD, football coach.
Yeah, it's been good. It's been good.
Robert, thank you, buddy. Appreciate your time. As always, we'll see you Saturday. Robert Allen, sideline for Oklahoma State. Great guy.